So, imagine you're on the road and a police officer pulls you over and he says, "How much have you been taking tonight?" And you say, "Officer, have you been drinking tonight?" And he says, "I've only had one beer." And you say, "Officer, I'm going to need you to back away from the vehicle. And I'm going to need you to take a breathalyzer test." And the officer says, "Aw, man, is that all you're going to make me do? You're going to make me do that? Anything else you want me to do for you?" And you say, "Yes, officer. I need you to hug me and tell me everything's going to be okay. I need you to hug me. And I need you to tell me that everything's going to be okay, because I've had an emotional night. It sounds like you've had an emotional night, and I think we just need each other right now." And so, in this scene, as you imagine it in your mind, there's a series of role reversals. The first one is that you wouldn't expect that the officer is in trouble. You see, the officer, he says, "Why'd you pull me over, officer?" He says, "Well, there was two of you." He's seen double, right? So he's under the influence. And you wouldn't expect this role reversal. But then, the logical conclusion would be, the officer goes to jail and whatnot. But not in this case. Not in this case. And we expect there to be this antagonistic relationship that the officer's trying to catch the driver, and now, with the inversion, the driver's trying to catch the officer. But you see, in fact, what's really happened is that as a result of a human connection between the two of them, now they're coming together in love. And, that's not something we often have with our police departments, this kind of, and it's not something we have, not just with the police, but any kind of formal bureaucracy, any kind of government institution. Have you hugged a DMV worker lately? Have you had an emotional, intimate connection? No, because these institutions are designed to dehumanize, to stratify, to separate, to alienate, to create a priest class of legalism, which is a sacred status and which allows them to tell you what to do with the threat of violence obscured by the power of the state. So, when you hug the police officer and the police officer hugs you and you begin to cry in each other's arms, and you finally have that catharsis, that emotional release you've been looking for, that would be the rarest of places. That would be the least likely of places, because not only is it the priest, the bureaucrat, the government worker, but it's the most masculine, macho of them all, the police officer, who's in this antagonistic relationship with the citizenry. So there's so many layers of separation. The relationship between the police officer and the person being pulled over, it's one of the most antagonistic relationships that suburbanites will ever encounter, besides, intimate family relationships. But even then, it's one of the most formalized, uncomfortable, awkward, scary, fearful, anxious encounters that, again, most law-abiding people will ever have. And so to take that relationship and to deconstruct it via the drunkenness of the officer, and then to further deconstruct it with the moment of embrace, to embrace each other in that moment, I think it's a powerful scene. I think it's a powerful image of a police officer who has reached his wit's end, and a man who sees beyond it. He sees beyond the social narratives, beyond the badge, beyond the uniform, beyond the state itself, beyond our society. And he has reached such a point of exhaustion with the world. He's reached such a point of terrible, terrible reckoning with his own identity that he's willing to reach out. First, he's willing to threaten, to turn the tables, and to take command of the situation. He has no fear. He does not fear the police officer. He's willing to make the citizen's arrest. But when he sees the surrender of the police officer, when he sees that the police officer too is at his wit's end and he has nothing left to lose, he realizes that they too are kindred spirits to be united into the bonds of friendship. And so they start an unlikely friendship with one another. And, the police officer, he takes off his badge, he throws it down, he says, I'm not worthy to be a police officer. And he says, but you're worthy to be a friend. And they start an unlikely friendship, and they start a road trip around the country, and they meet all these different people and do all these different things together. And at the end of it, the police officer realizes that his alcoholism was a way of distracting himself from the pain of loss in his life, the lack of friendship. And, through this journey, he was able to fill that hole in his heart and realize he didn't need the drink to survive. He just needed a connection. And so through this lesson, he's able to sober up. He's able to go back to the police academy or whatever. Maybe he never wanted to be a police officer. Maybe that's what his dad wanted him to do. And because he never had an emotional connection with his dad, he felt forced to become a police officer in order to have some semblance of a relationship with his father. But, there was no emotional intimacy. And now that he's overcome this issue, he's able to, become really what he actually wanted to do, which was become a teacher or a social worker or a therapist or, something opposite, something, in the inversion of the police officer. Maybe he becomes a preschool teacher. And so the police officer is once a drunk, a deadbeat. Now he's a functional member of society. He's been restored and made whole once again, all because of this accident, this terrible moment, the lowest point. He hit rock bottom. He's pulling people over because he's so drunk that he can't even work his speedometer, his laser beam, his speed tracker. And this guy, he could have ruined this guy's life. He could have, prosecuted, sued, got a bunch of money, but he says, no, I don't care about any of that. I'm not in it to bring down other people. I'm here to lift people up. And it's just a right moment, right time, right place, right people thing, where they were just perfect for each other. They needed one another. The guy in the car, he didn't know what to do. He didn't have anything left, and he needed a project. He needed a person. He needed somebody to give his life meaning and purpose again, and that was that police officer. And so they formed a spunky little team, and they went on adventures and had some mishaps and perhaps made some mistakes, but they learned lessons along the way. And I think that's really what it's all about. So put that in your noggin. I think it's really funny. I think it's quite comedic. It makes me squeal with laughter, but at the same time, it's very serious. It's a serious kind of a laugh. It's a very serious kind of comedy, and that's about it.